The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Welcome to On Cue. I'm your host, Eric Olson. On today's program, we find out how amazing kids can be when it comes to helping others, especially those who are hungry. We also get a look at how the year-round calendar is working in the Austin Public Schools, and as always, we get the latest from the Vision 2020 initiative. Stay tuned for On Cue.
From KSMQ Television in Austin, this is On Cue, connecting interesting issues and interesting people. On Cue.
Sumner Elementary and Woodson Kindergarten have recently begun their third year operating under a modified year-round calendar. Sheila Berger, principal at Sumner Elementary, joins us today to tell us how it's going. Welcome.
Thank you.
And you're smiling, so it must be going okay.
We are doing very well. We had a very smooth start to the year.
And you have been, we're talking about, when I was a young person in school, it was called 45-15, was kind of the slang for it, or the term for it. 45 days of school, 15 days vacation year-round. And it's a new concept to our area, but actually it's quite common elsewhere.
Right. Across the nation, there are many different states who have quite a few schools that are on some kind of a modified calendar. We just chose to use the 45-15 model like you mentioned.
And it's a learning, the reasons to do it are primarily to help the child learn better, or?
There's quite a bit of research about the summer slide, what happens when you take a 3-month vacation from academic environments. And for most children, it's not a benefit to have those 3 consecutive months off. And so when you shorten that summer break, our kids get about a 7-week summer break, and break up that 3-month vacation time across the calendar year, academically students do better.
And I notice on the calendar, you group them around, holidays. So you try to work, it seems like, with families and vacations, that kind of thing. As
we were creating our first calendar a couple of years ago, we did recognize that there are families who have children at various levels. And so we try to be cognizant of when traditional calendars take breaks, and then hook up our 3-week breaks to those common break times, so that there are times in which a whole family has vacation.
Does it make it difficult from an education point of view within the district, where you have some of the same grade, they're doing different things at different times as far as coordinating events or anything like that?
We have not experienced that. I'm very lucky to work with colleagues that are willing to take risks and try new things, and we have found it very easy. You just kind of get past the date on the calendar and do your job like you would any other day.
Okay, because my dad was a teacher for many, many years, and I think he kind of liked the summers off.
And actually what we have heard from the teaching staff is, while they love their summers off, it gets to be a very long year. And we in Austin had a few years in a row of absolutely no spring break. So we came back to work January 2nd, and we were straight through until you got out in June. And that is a rough time of year anyway for students and adults. And so breaking up that calendar, having breaks, teachers come back feeling refreshed and rested, and feel like it's worth what they give up in the summer.
Are you hearing mostly positives from parents?
We are. Most of our parents have learned to recognize the signs of when their kids are ready to go back to school. And for the most, about August 1st, the summer activities have kind of died out. Kids have gotten rested. They've kind of gotten their summer lazy days past them, and they're ready for routine again. And we have had parents that have children at both levels, in which we're on a modified calendar in their elementary years, and then they might have siblings in the upper grades who are on a traditional calendar. And there's positives and negatives to that, of course, but most of them have managed to figure out how to make that work for them.
Not that you're speaking for the administration of the whole district, but have there been any talks about expanding this to other schools?
We as the district have recognized that at Sumner it worked for us. It was kind of a grassroots effort between the staff and our family members at Sumner. And I think as other buildings determined that that would be a benefit for them, I think the district would openly consider that. We are at the end of our 3-year waiver. In order to start before Labor Day, you have to apply for a waiver from the State Department. And so we got a waiver, and this is our 3rd year, and so we'll have to reapply. And so we'll be looking for direction from the board as to whether they want to continue that. I think they do. And maybe even consider expanding it. But like I said, that'll be up to each individual site.
Is the state an advocate of this?
Yes, although it's a pretty small population across the state of Minnesota that is on a modified calendar, but they have obviously procedures in place to allow people to get around that rule of starting the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Mm-hmm. And besides the focus on the kids not having such a long gap, so that they forget things, as you mentioned, are there other advantages also within the social framework of the kid? I mean, the student, a little more stability, planning, routine.
One of the things that we're able to do in the fall and spring break, we offer a couple weeks of what you would traditionally call summer school. And so we are able to intercept kids who maybe are struggling and get them remediation or extension activities within the school year instead of waiting the whole year for them to fail and then trying to make up what they lost during the summer. And so we also feel like that's been a tremendous benefit for our students.
Because I was just hearing something the other day that a lot of school districts, not Austin, but other parts of the country, are just not having summer school, canceling it or severely cutting it way down because of funding.
That's correct.
So this is a good way to kind of, as a stopgap. Any surprises? We've talked a lot about the research and things we expected as far as improvements. Did anything really surprise you in making this change?
I remember the very first year, the fall break, we were a little bit nervous because we'd worked really hard. We'd gotten the kids into a routines, and we thought, uh-oh, now we're going to let them go, some of them for 3 weeks. Will we have to go back and start all over again to build routine back and get them off and running? So that was a little nerve-wracking, but we were grateful to see that the day that they came back, we kind of regrouped as a community and we're off and running again. So that was nice. The kids have surprised us, I think, more than anything. We don't hear any kids grumbling about the fact that they're going to school long before some of their siblings or their neighbors or other community members. They kind of seem ready when it comes time for our summer break to be over and the new year to start. And they also are very much ready to come back to us after a 3-week break. We had a student who opted not to participate in some of the intersession activities that first year and came back and said she was never doing that again. It was the longest 3 weeks of her life. So they seem to really enjoy it as well.
Intersession activity.
Intersession is what we call our summer school that happens in the fall and the spring.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yep.
How many languages are spoken by students at your school? Is it pretty much?
It ranges. Some years 13, some years 18. It's the whole district and the community as a whole are becoming very, very diverse.
I think that's something that's still surprising to a lot of people. I know it is when I go elsewhere to visit friends or up in the cities, the amount of diversity.
Yes.
And do teachers get training, or how are they able to cope? It would seem to be very stressful for them.
I would say in the last 10 years, the district has worked very hard to help support the staff and the adults working in all of our schools, you know, everywhere from the bus drivers to the cooks to the custodial staffs to the teacher, to make sure that we are knowledgeable and have the tools that we need in order to support English language learners as well as students from a variety of cultural backgrounds.
Well, wonderful, Sheila. Thanks for educating us.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your service to the district. What is it, 13 years now?
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks.
Sheila Berger's been our guest. She's the principal of Sumner Elementary right here in Austin. And we will be back right after this. Stay with us.
watch On Cue anytime by visiting the KSMQ TV website, ksmq.org.
And welcome back to On Cue, talking about a serious subject now, children and hunger. And not somewhere else across the globe or around the world somewhere, right here in Minnesota. Ron Osterbauer joins us now. He's Executive Director of Kids Against Hunger. And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Talking about a new facility you have in our neck of the woods in Mankato.
Yeah, we've had an operation in Mankato for the past 10 years and really looking to kind of expand, and we're changing the whole format of how Kids Against Hunger works. And so Mankato, we moved into a new facility June 1. We did a grand opening on it last weekend, and it really is going to become a regional distribution center for Kids Against Hunger. So it will actually take in ingredients and reship them out to packing organizations all across the upper Midwest.
Talk about your organization. How did it get started?
Kids Against Hunger actually started when our founder, Richard Proudfoot, went to the Honduras in 1974 to help with Hurricane Fifi. And he was there as a businessman and volunteering, and had all these women coming up to him with babies dying in their arms, wanting to give them to him because they had no food. So he decided to actually take that upon himself and figure out how he could serve the world's hungry. Started out by feeding them Tootsie Rolls, which he found out didn't have a lot of nutritional value, and then hooked up with food scientists from Cargill, Archer Daniel Midland, Pillsbury, and General Mills, and developed a vitamin powder that has 22 vitamins and nutrients in it, and made a formula, a rice casserole formula that literally has fed over 1 billion children since he started. So he started Feed My Starving Children, and then moved on from that because they were more Minnesota-based, and started Kids Against Hunger with a plan to kind of start packaging food in all 50 states.
Wow. So are we helping, was I correct in saying we're helping folks in the United States as well, or is this primarily a global effort?
Well, originally when it started out as a global because of the world hunger problem. There's 1 billion people a day that are food insecure and don't know where tomorrow's meal is coming from. In the last 10 years, it has switched to an American problem, although we don't, we call it food insecurity instead of starvation and hungry people. But 33 to 50% of all the meals packed locally stay locally. So we just did a huge pack in Washington, D.C., packaging 1 million meals, and we left half of the meals with the D.C. Central Kitchen, which actually services 100 different agencies in the Washington, D.C. area, including schools. So it's really become a very popular source of food. When I was there, I talked to the director of the Capital Area Food Bank, and she said 1 in 2 kids in Washington, D.C. do not know where tomorrow's food is coming from. And their problem is, do we feed them once a day, every other day, every 3 days? And with Kids Against Hunger, they only need to eat a cup of the food every day to get all the vitamins and nutrients they need to grow.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And the change in direction now that you're feeding folks right here in our country, that the need is that pronounced.
The need is really pronounced. I have a meeting later today with some people from northern Minnesota, and 100% of what they pack stays in northern Minnesota. They don't ship anything to other countries. And most satellites usually keep 30 to 50% local, and the rest goes to 60 different countries that we ship to right now for food. So,
where do you get your funding?
All of our funding really comes from packing events. So basically, like here in Austin, if they do a packing event, they raise money at 25 cents a meal.
Okay, what do you mean packing event?
Well, a packing event, basically we take, there's 4 ingredients in the formula. So there's the vitamin mix, which is like a tablespoon of that goes into a bag that feeds 6 people. It gets a cup of enriched soy. It gets a tablespoon roughly, or a little bit more, of dried vegetables, which is onions, red peppers, carrots, things of that sort, and then it gets a cup of rice, which is the world's most recognized food. And so at a packing event, we have what we call lines. There's 10 volunteers on a line. Each volunteer has a duty, so obviously there's people that put the ingredients in the bag. There's 2 people that hold the bag in a funnel to put the food in. The food then gets weighed, because it has to be between 390 and 400 milligrams. The Denton program actually ships our food free using the Air Force and Navy C-130s, and if it's not between that weight, the bags will explode in the air. And so if what they do then is they either put rice in or take rice out, then it gets sealed, boxed up. There's 36 bags in a box, and each bag has 6 meals in it.
Well, and how does that raise money? I'm confused.
So what they do is they raise, like here in Austin, they will do a packing event, like a church or school will raise money at 25 cents a meal. So like if they want to package 10,000 meals, it's $2,500. And then the Austin facility will buy ingredients through corporate. We bulk buy because last year we packaged 42 million meals, and so that's an advantage to them. And the cost of that product to them is actually between 11 and 13 cents. So they keep that 12 cents to help their local operation. So that provides a lot of the funding.
So those events that you do, is that the majority of your funding?
Is that, and we have a huge individual donor base all across the country. We pull in a little more than $1 million a year just from individual donors and corporations. And so as we expand this new model, we'll be doing more kind of cause marketing type things. We have a new program in the Twin Cities that started called Eat Apply, which basically is based on the Tom Shoe concept. You eat a meal, you give a meal. The group was founded by a young entrepreneur in January, and basically goes into restaurants, and they agree to give 39 cents for every meal served to provide a meal for a hungry child. And so he started with 4 restaurants. We're up to about 45 restaurants right now. In the states he's in is Minnesota, Arkansas, and Washington. And that down the road will eventually raise a lot of money for us because it's gained a lot of popularity that restaurants can use this as a way to help support hungry children locally and across the world.
Boy, that's ingenious.
It's really very ingenious, yeah. And he's also working on a new program called Drink Apply with water as well. And one of the avenues we're looking at potentially down the road is adding water into our filtration systems into our formula, because you know, a lot of groups go to other countries and drill wells, and there's no guarantee that those wells have good water. If the rebels move in and take the country over, the well stays there and the people leave. There are filtration systems now that basically involve a 5-gallon pail and a filter, and it can filter 1 million gallons of water and make it pure. So we're actually looking at how we can add that into it, and the cost is about $60 to filter 1 million gallons of water.
My goodness. Now, the Mankato facility that you just opened in June, or christened in June, will that allow you to do something differently than you had in the past, this regional concept?
Yeah, well, we've never had the regional concept. The Mankato is actually the first facility that's going to help with the regional concept. Typically, everything that was purchased came into New Hope, and then it was shipped back out. So, you know, if rice comes from Arkansas, so it'd come from Arkansas to New Hope, and then if a packing facility in Houston wanted it, we shipped it back to Houston. So with the regional concept, we're actually looking at setting up 6 different regional warehouses similar to Mankato that will actually take in the product. So we're going to get the ingredients closer to where they're used to reduce the shipping costs. So Mankato is the first one out of the chute for us, and it will actually become the regional distribution center for all of the upper Midwest, and we'll actually be closing our New Hope warehouse within the next 2 to 3 months.
My goodness. So it's a big change.
It's a big change, but the whole goal is to, you know, feed kids, not pay shipping, and so by doing this, we're going to be able to actually feed more kids, and the satellites and the packing facilities will not have to put as much money into getting the product to them.
There are similar groups, or not similar, I shouldn't say, but other groups that work on feeding hungry people, children around. Many of them have a Christian or religious component. Is that, are you affiliated in some way?
No, we're not. We're actually a humanitarian organization. We service all faiths, race, creeds, colors. You know, Feed My Starving Children is a Christian organization. Stop Hunger Now is similar to us. They're multifaceted, work with all different types of groups. We have several Muslim leaders who actually run packing facilities, one of them in Washington, D.C. So we encourage all people of all faiths and backgrounds, because we service all people of all faiths and backgrounds, so that's not a limiting factor for us.
Terrible to say that the business is good that you have all these organizations.
Yeah, you know, well, with 1 billion kids a day starving right now, it's a huge problem, and you know, we generate 42 million meals, and Feed My Starving Children did around 130 million meals last year, so, and that's in a year. The need is for 1 billion a day. And
your website for people to learn more?
Is just www.kidsagainsthunger.org.
Kidsagainsthunger.org. And very important work that you're doing, Ron Osterbauer. Thank you so much for making the trip here to Austin.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your new facility in Mankato.
Great. It's good to be here.
And we will be right back with our Vision 2020 update.
Queue up your own comments for On Cue and send them to us at onq@ksmq.org. On Cue's Vision 2020 segment is brought to you by Hormel Foundation, Games People Play, and Turtle Creek Estates.
And welcome back, talking about the Austin Utilities Building and that committee of Vision 2020. Bruce Lushin joins us from that committee, and welcome.
Thank you.
A lot of things happening with that building, not the least of which is our summertime event, the Artworks Festival.
Yes.
Which is really, in my opinion, really drawing a lot of attention to that building. Was that part of the idea?
Well, originally it was the purpose of the building. And I came to one of the first meetings with that in mind, and we evolved it as a show to use the turbine room and the garages, and it's turned into a very unusual, unique kind of art festival.
Have you ever met artists who have, as being a retired art teacher yourself for many years, have you ever been at an art show in a turbine room?
Never.
How did it work? How was the aesthetic, sir?
The aesthetics are great. It has 3 walls of glass block, and it's huge. It's open air, so it allows us to be very flexible.
Oh yeah, I thought it was great fun.
Well, we hope the weather cooperates. That's the only disappointing part of it. If it's raining, we're protected, which
Correct.
is important. But if it gets, Minnesota heat, it could be a little uncomfortable in there. But
sure.
a lot of our artists are accustomed to going to summer shows, and they're outside, so they have to put up with weather and heat. And we hope we've taken some of that out of the equation.
And I really enjoy the different types of media you brought in, the glass, and in the second room, the ink work. Jeff Gould, one of our photographers, showed there some of this beautiful ink work. So it's not just one type. Eric Anfinson, of course.
Right.
So you've you've kind of put all kinds of different art in there.
Well, and that was what was unique for our festival. We are still doing it the second year as the connection angle, community people, but also bringing in the nationally known artists, because it's like anything, if you want people to take notice, you have to have that headliner. And Eric has always been a good hometown headliner. And this year we're adding Phil Gleason from University of Florida as a sculptor, and Phyllis Yes. She will be, she's from Portland, Oregon, and she's internationally known and successful in the arts.
And then beyond the Artworks Festival, the future of the building itself is something that your committee is working on.
It's condominiums primarily right now, but it could evolve into some artist studio, working areas, shops, and maybe even eventually the turbine room could become a professional gallery.
Oh, like the common working space, or what did you?
That's been one of our
goals. Word you used, because I know I lived in Duluth. There was one there. There are several in Minneapolis. Talk about what that is.
Well, that is where it's subsidized housing for artists to produce artwork. And that isn't quite in the mix just yet, but we'd like it to be. Austin isn't on the main line of art trading, and so we have to, change our destination and get people to think that they can shop and visit Austin for great artworks. So we're looking at expanding a temporary art building downtown, and we have the perfect inn where we can connect and pull these international artists, and would you show in our local gallery for a few months and keep that going. Like anything, it's if the artwork isn't selling, then it gets around to the artists that it's not a place to go, and we are looking at ways of subsidizing that because there's an educational feature.
Certainly is.
I enjoy going to art galleries and museums, but seldom can I afford to buy the original work. But it's a learning situation, an environment that you can't quite get all the time on print or media.
Correct. And Bruce Lushin, a lot of folks know you as a longtime artist, an artist from the community. Thank you very much for your service. After a full career to come back and serve in this capacity, I think that's a wonderful example for a lot of folks in our community. And also, maybe you didn't know this, but those cool little drawings on the bank building downtown in the windows of all of our citizens in town. You're looking at the artist right here. Did you have fun doing that?
It was fun, and I ran across an article where a city was trying to promote arts, and a guy was graffitiing I thought, well, Austin wouldn't necessarily appreciate if I painted on the windows, so I got some wood and went on empty storefronts. And one of my pet peeves is to see empty building and the empty windows. So putting some action figures in it livened it up and got people talking.
Oh,
which was
absolutely.
The point,
Loved it. Thank you very much, Bruce, for joining us. And that'll do it for this edition of On Cue. I'm Eric Olson. See you next time.
On Cue is a production of KSMQ Television in Austin, nonprofit public television.